So to give you some context, I graduated over 6 months ago now from architecture school, completed my master's, and I had just the best time. I think being an architecture student was really rewarding and it became part of my identity for a really long time too, which is why I think having the blog on the side, either through university or work or whatever it was, really helped me to not only build my skills in another area, but also connect with other people and know that I wasn't alone in feeling kind of left behind or feeling like I didn't have the necessary skills to pursue this career. But if you've watched any of my other videos or if you have been following me on Instagram and LinkedIn, I've repeatedly said that I don't really know if I want to do the entire process of becoming an architect and seeing it through and doing my part three, getting qualified, just because having worked a year in practice, and I know that isn't a lot, I do feel like the 9 to 5 situation, the kind of technical side of architecture, isn't quite for me. I do love designing and I am still really passionate about that, which is why I'm looking for this job because it's quite hard to quantify what you're doing so long after graduation. And I find myself almost confused in when people ask me, okay, so what are you up to now? Because I'm doing so many different things. First of all, I've been freelancing on and off here and there, doing work for different architecture related companies, and most of that has been in the realm of social media, marketing, outreach, and communications. And those are all skills that I've developed on my own through my platform and through doing personal projects and just being kind of brave in the sense of doing something that isn't already out there. So, for example, with the magazine, I learned a lot of editorial skills. With running MadCon, I learned how to do online event production, which is a crazy thing to even think about right now. But I do really value the skills that I've learned from there, and I do think it would be a shame if I wasn't to put them to use. I think it's all well and done to kind of stay in the architecture field, and I really, really admire people who do see it through and do kind of finish that process because it is really tough. And that's not to say that I feel put off by architecture or the industry as such. It's more so that I value and I see my other skills, and therefore I think I can have the best of both worlds in a sense. So, over the summer, I worked as a content executive for a social media content agency, and that really opened my eyes to seeing the business behind the creator economy because it's something that I had my eyes on but didn't really know how it worked. And it also kind of gave me the confidence to then pursue my own, I guess, pathway into monetization and brand sponsorships and deals, and basically just taking what was a small little blog and turning it into something more sustainable, at least financially for me, because I think that's really important. And I know that I have been bringing value to people for so many years now. And I think it's like high time that it also paid back in a sense to me too. So currently I'm working 1 day a week permanently, at least for the next kind of 3 or 4 months or so. And that's been really cool because I am learning a lot. I'm getting to work with my kind of ultimate audience, which is architecture students. And I'm also working with an organization who I really admire and who, have been supporting me from day one. So that's been really fun to kind of have that midweek break and do something completely different from what I usually do. Right now, I'm kind of full time with To Scale and working on content, working on different projects. I've got Open Studio, which is a series of workshops for architecture students in London. And so I'm speaking to practices, I'm hosting personal branding talks, and there's just a lot going on right now. However, the reason why I'm looking for a job is because I think it could really help me shift my routine because I'm kind of like stuck in this phase where, when you start content creation, it's usually a side hustle alongside something more full time like university or work. And so, therefore, it becomes an outlet to your creativity. Whereas now, doing it almost full time and still being unemployed, technically, I feel like that creative spark is kind of fizzling down a bit. And so, I want to have other things I'm working on that can give me energy throughout the week. So this is my Notion page of tracking my applications. As you can see, there's not a lot because I've only recently started this, but what I do is I log on to Design Jobs every single morning just to check in whether there's any new jobs at the moment. I scroll down to the side over here, go to More, Architecture, and click on Part 2. So I'm not exactly looking for a full-time Part 2 job at the moment, but it doesn't hurt to look. And sometimes there's actually quite a few freelance or part time roles as well, or a mix of something that better suits my skills, such as in social media or marketing or communication and so on. So, as you can see, it's currently the 11th of February, and there were a couple posted yesterday, um, which look okay. Obviously, this one's for an architect, and then it says part two. So, the terminology is quite complicated, and you have to really scrape through all of the job applications at some points just to see if there's anything that you missed. I've had a look at the rest of these previous ones before, so I know that there isn't really anything that completely stands out right now. How I would go about looking at a job post is I'd click in and read through the job description itself. So, usually, you'll have something about the practice and then a list of bullet points, either what they're looking for in that particular role, or it'd be a bullet point of responsibilities that you have. So, this is more so what's required of you, and go through the bullet points. And basically, you're looking to have at least anywhere from 70 to 80% of the requirements. If you don't have it all, but you're still really passionate to apply to this practice, I would 100% recommend you do so. And that's because you can basically demonstrate that you have either knowledge that you're working towards or you're really keen about learning a particular skill. So, most of the time, this will be software skills. For example, Revit is like the industry standard. Some practices might ask for a lot more bespoke software like ArchiCAD or Vectorworks. So, it really depends on practice to practice. But if you are looking for a job within London, it's typically one of those three. And I would then start writing your cover letter. I have a template that I refer back to, but then adjust accordingly to each practice, whether there's something kind of stand out that they're looking for in terms of what kind of person you are, how well you collaborate, or how well you are able to adjust within their team. So, social skills, for example, is a really valued kind of personality trait. And so it doesn't go unnoticed if you're including something like that in your cover letter. Now, because I had all these amazing freelance projects going on, I wasn't really taking applying for a job that seriously. And I know that may not be the case for some of you guys who are still looking for a job, and it is really, really tough. So I definitely give you a lot of credit for pushing through and being consistent with it because it is difficult. I think I started taking this job application thing seriously only a month ago, which would have been December 2023. And it's kind of like the wrong time to apply to jobs because things are winding down, offices are closing for the holidays, and people take longer to communicate with you, which is totally understandable. So it's only now that I have been able to get responses back, and I applied to two different roles. One was a marketing assistant at an architecture practice, and the other one was initially a part two full time role. I applied because I had heard really, really good things about this practice, and I thought, why not give it a go because my skill set does match what they're looking for. And they actually suggested whether I wanted to do this role freelance or part time instead, which is just a win because that's exactly what I would love to do. Coincidentally, both of these interviews are coming up in the same week. So I'm taking the time now to kind of prepare, update my CV, and polish my portfolio, make sure it's ready to go. I think I'll be presenting it digitally just because that's easier for me and probably better because I'm not really sure what the turnaround time would be if I did get it printed. So I just need to add a few references onto my CV, polish up my portfolio, make sure it's looking good. And because I have two separate portfolios for both these roles, I will be kind of like talking it through and practicing what I'm going to say just to make sure there aren't any gaps and making sure that everything flows naturally rather than me just kind of spewing information during the interview. And there have been a lot of rejections as well, which did kind of get me down a few months ago, But I mean, that is just part of the process. Sometimes it comes on a good day and sometimes it doesn't. I applied to a practice where I got shortlisted for their final 8 and then eventually got rejected. I also applied for a freelancing project, which was for a brand identity for an upcoming architecture initiative. Was unsuccessful on that too, and that would have been really nice as well. But those are the only ones that I've kind of kept track with on Notion. So that's been my most recent update on how job hunting is going. I will try and make a video in the upcoming few weeks, letting you know how it's all gone. But if you want to follow along with my journey, feel free to follow me on Instagram at 2.scale and connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll see you guys in the next video.